Good morning and welcome to another capsule of CIO Desk. Today we will talk about the disaster recovery plan. This best practice is a must in today's day economy in the different cities where we have implementations, infrastructure, and support for premises. With that being said, I'd like to start this conversation today, so let's begin. Two factors should be included in the disaster recovery plan. The first one is the risks. We have to investigate and document how many risks our company is facing in the case of one of these risks be materialized. We need to have an estimation of two factors: the percentage of probability that this event happens, and also the amount of dollars of the impact that will imply if this materialization of risk executes or occurs. How much dollar value are we losing every day that we lose operations because of the impact of this risk? Let's talk about each of the major risks that I have faced and I have documented over the years. The first one is hurricane or flood. If you happen to have your offices, your premises located in a coast near to the city, near to the city, like Miami or another city close to the sea, you need to estimate via Google or Wikipedia the percentage of probability and in the last 10 years how many hurricanes or floods have occurred in that particular city. With that being said, you should also estimate the amount of damage in terms of dollar value that happened because of the occurrence of this disaster. And then you extrapolate your total sales versus the amount of impact, and that would give you estimated cipher or estimated number of the potential loss by being impacted by this risk. In the case of the earthquake is by far the most dangerous impact in cities like Los Angeles, Mexico City, Santiago de Chile. On these three cities, which are definitely located in seismic line of the coast, we need to have a plan in place to face the potential destruction of our premises, in which this case we need to also estimate, investigating how many times things have occurred, the number of events, and the total value of damage in the city. And if you happen to obtain the losses by your sector, of your economic sector, it will be easier for you to document and extrapolate the potential loss if that occurs in your company. Fire, another risk potentially available for everyone. Every company should be ready to face a fire disaster in which the destruction of the total premises will occur. In this case, the source of information is your insurance company. Talk with them, ask them for the statistics of the last 10 years, how many incidents of fire in your sector have occurred, the amount of dollar losses by the occurrences of this event, and that will sustain and give you the alternative information that you should document in your disaster recovery plan. And last but not least, the popular revolts. Popular revolts, familiar and frequently happening today's day in Latin America, cities like Argentina, Santiago, Mexico City, Rio de Janeiro, all of them, we are suffering of these popular revolts. This event, if it does not affect permanently or a long term, definitely it affects for at least 2-3 days the continuous operation of the company. In this case, we have to have an estimation of losses. What happens if we stop operating more than 1 day? And then with this justify the potential implementation of the plan. What is next is we have to document our findings and this is a free-form document. We have to write and talk to our reader what we find, what by all of the risk or a combination of the risk. One company should be able to receive and be impacted by several at the same time. Not at the same time in the same event, I mean, but definitely should include in the disaster recovery plan what would happen if several of these 4 factors occur, or even others that I'm not considering as a sample. The next section of the plan is the recovery plan per se. The recovery plan should be break up in 4 major areas. The first one is backups availability. The second one, recovery site. The third one, service recovery. And the fourth one, telecommunications link recovery. Let's talk about the first one, backups. Backups is by far the most important component of the plan, of the disaster recovery plan. Every company should have at least 1 week's old total backup of production systems, including software-based as much as data. We have to have offline of the company, I mean in a remote site, a copy of this data and available and easy access, but nothing to do with our company. It could be a bank safe, or it could be a higher storage location, a place in which we can send electronic media, magnetic media, or cloud information in order to have a copy of all this information available for us to access anytime. The next component, the recovery side. The recovery side, in the case of an event of only 1 or 2 or 3 days, it could be perfectly a hotel. A hotel in which we can move in a conference room and locate there the critical staff that should be working in the recovery, the servers, the access to internet, and we can start operating and recovering our company in a hotel. The second option could be our own premises in remote locations. If your company, as I mentioned, is capable or is composed of remote sites, one of the remote sites should be devoted for holding up office space and server space to recover and reconstruct the company's data in that particular location. And the third element, if we don't happen to have a remote location, then we should hire the hosting services of an external site, including if we are in backing up our data in the cloud. We need to have a remote hosting site for locating the computers and the staff that should be working in the reconstruction of the premises. Service recovery. Okay, the servers definitely should be recovered in 4 potential elements. The first one is decommissioned hardware. I recommend that if you decommission all hardware, instead of getting rid of it, I suggest that you keep it in external storage for at least 1 year, because these are of enormous help in the case of the recovery. If all of a sudden we happen to face the destruction of the premises, you can rely on these old servers that actually contain the operating systems and the applications, not last version, but at least we have a 1-year-old version of the production applications. In a matter of a restore of the data, we can recover if we begin from zero, from scratch. Rented hardware. The next alternative is rent hardware, have an agreement up front with a provider that already knows the exact configuration of our servers. At the fingertips and at a call, they will be available to deliver that hardware in the location that we may call. The next alternative should be lend hardware. We can have friends of ours, other CIOs, that can lend us a space and bandwidth of their premises to have at least the most critical systems up and running in a matter of hours. Instead of hiring all of these things, we can combine this alternative and have a potential recovery of hours instead of days. And last but not least, would be other alternatives that we may find, like third-party providers that have a professional services and provide us with this kind of recovery. Telecommunication links. The way that we can recover, the first alternative is VPN. Everywhere where we have internet with a good bandwidth, we can have a recovery site. The second alternative is leased LAN links. If we can have a location already with the leased LAN links, is the best alternative because it will assure a bandwidth of our own and we can recover faster in the mid-range term. And in the long-term range, it's the satellite links. Suppose that we have a remote location because we want to be protected for a second occurrence of the same issue that happened. We should relocate our premises in another state and potentially doesn't have a leased landlines because of the magnitude of the impact. Then we should have capability of locate rented satellite links, uplinks and downlinks in the different locations. In this way, restart the operations. Then we have to write up and prepare a step-by-step plan in which we, the last previous 4 factors, backups, servers recovery site, telecommunication links, we should write up a plan in a matrix form in which we have the who, the what, and the whom will be in charge of what and when. And we tabulate that in a matrix form in order to present the plan in an objective and familiar way. And lastly, then we have free-form documentation of the second section, in which we will explain to the reader what are the activities that we will perform in the different sections of the disaster recovery plan, and we should review and upgrade this plan at least once a year. With that being said for today, that is all. Thank you very much for listening to my video, and I will continue this in a second version of this video in which I will cover business continuity plan, in which we will connect the disaster recovery plan with the business continuity plan to provide a total coverage in case of a disaster. With that being said, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. I invite you to leave me your comments in the below box of YouTube, and thank you very much for listening to me. See you in the next video.